Ooh, good evening. It's always good evening here in the Real Love Guitars workshop. So what we've got here is Paul's Harley Benton. Yeah, never quite sure what one it's called. Oh, and the cover is in the. Oh crap! Sorry, the cover is in on my shelf at home. So yeah, this is a CST, I think it's called, something like that. It's got the Roswell pickups there. It's a sort of PRS style thing. Roswell pickups and a sort of Wilkinson style bridge with an adjustable. I never quite figure out how that's supposed to work. An adjustable, I should say, a compensated wraparound bridge, but with an adjustable bit there. But the problem is I can't get my head around how you actually adjust that to make any meaningful difference at all, unless you can turn it upside down and reverse the. That doesn't make any sense either. So frankly, why that's got any adjustment in it is beyond me. Anyway, it's currently set up for a sort of 3-plane and 3-wound, which as long as it stays like that, there's no harm. But honestly, I can't see how having that movable makes any difference. If you wanted a wound G here, the wound G should be right the way forward to here. You could pull that forward, but your B would be miles out. So I don't understand what they're trying to do. Anyway, so Paul brought this to me, and it was buzzing all the way here. It couldn't play, and he tried to make an adjustment to it, I think, and hadn't got anywhere. So he was sort of, I think he's half expecting it to be cream crackered. So I'm pleased to say that I was able to make some adjustments, and it came back to life. So at home, I've already done the truss rod adjustment to get it playing, to free up the strings, and I've also done the adjustment on the bridge to intonate it, and you can see there that's how far I had to push the bridge back with the little grub screws that live there. But that's now got it into the correct position for intonation. As you can see, the staggered pattern coming this way and a diagonal. So having done that, this thing now has should be good, and it has some curvature in the neck. Now, by the way, if you see me in this shed right now, it's the end of a summer's day, so I am kind of been working hard prior to doing this setup, so I'm a bit boiled. Okay, so this is now flattened out a little bit too much. Honestly, who would have believed it? So I'm going to just tighten it back a little bit. Again, a lot of these things can be particular to people's environments and homes. It's quite, I don't know what the word is. It's quite humid at the moment right now, as you can tell by my shirt. So I'm just, I'm going for as good a, that's a good sort of first, a good relief height. It's about 0.2 of a mil. Now we basically, we broke a string in the stretching process, or in the sorting out process. But so all told, what I have done is I've ordered in a new tusk nut. I'm going to remove this one here, but we're going to need to put some new strings on, a sacrificial string. Now I don't know, maybe I've got one here kept from yesterday, maybe I'll just use that. So having got the neck to behave, and one of the things that there go the pigeons up in the roof again, or the rats. Yeah, so the important thing about getting this to play again is this truss rod works in two ways. It works positively in both directions. So if you're adjusting it from down at this end, when you're looking at it, turning it, I can get my thing in here, turning it clockwise this way, looking at that end, turning it clockwise tightens the truss rod and flattens the neck out, or ultimately puts it into a hump. If you don't want that, then cranking it anti-clockwise that way, when you're looking at it from that end, relaxes the truss rod and allows the strings, normally the strings, to pull a little bit of curvature in the neck. But in this case, it's a two-way truss rod. So you go past the midpoint where it's sort of slack, and if you keep going in the counterclockwise direction, it turns and it actually bends the rod in the opposite direction. So even if your strings aren't pulling, I'm just thinking this is Dadgad, isn't it? Yeah. Even if your strings aren't tight enough to pull relief into the neck, then on this kind of truss rod, turning it counterclockwise will continue to physically put a curve into the neck. So that's what I did. It was quite stiff. It was in the sort of it was in the region of being fairly tight. So it had all the curve dialed out, and it was a bit humped. And I think probably what Paul's experience was cranking it a bit in either direction and nothing happening. So you can be in that place where it doesn't seem to be doing anything. You can get disillusioned quite quickly. In this case, because I'm less afraid of breaking the truss rod, I was able to just keep on cranking it to see what I had at either end. And in fact, it was at that point I discovered that it was quite happily going in, quite happily to go into the positive counterclockwise way to put some curvature in it. And that immediately cleaned up these, lifted the strings off the frets here. So this guitar is set up for Dadgad, which is something like that with an extra string on the end. But I'll have to tune it up in a minute when the time comes. But I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to want to take the old nut off and remove it. So with Dadgad tuning, it's not something I've played in. What you can feel is that the neck is, or the strings are slacker. Now here we have the classic Harley Benton challenge. I've been in this situation plenty of times before. Let us take a close look at the world. Now I think what they've actually done for a change on this guitar, I think they've actually they've put this nut in after they've done the lacquering, which is unusual because normally, or in a few recent ones, I've noticed they've put it in. I've noticed that they've put the nut in first and then sprayed all around it, and as a result, the nut gets trapped in there. It's like it's glued in, so it makes it very difficult to free it up. Now I'm going to tap the glue, break the glue off like this, and as always it's done the same old thing again. It's caused some splits to the finish, and I'm lying, so they have done it this way. They've glued it into there as always, and I don't have any way of getting this out without it breaking. Harley Benton, you people, you've made life difficult, my friends. You really have. You've condemned, the way they do this, they've condemned people to not being able to change the nut over, because there's no way of getting this nut out without this splitting, because it's super. Basically, the lacquer is like super glue. So as soon as you loosen it up, it takes a bit of the finish with it, and as I said, there's no room. You can't really get it to come out any other way without it pulling up the finish. A bit of free movement at this end. Might just be able to get it out, but it's definitely, it's cracked the finish down this end. Look at that. For damped. I'm going to try and hold it down. Look at this. It wants to break this finish all off. No matter what you do, you will not get this off. There you go, chunks of finish coming off. I think I'm going to have to. I'm just going to have to give up changing nuts on Harley Bentons. If this is the way they're going from now on, this has become really impossible. a mess. That's it. I think that's definitely going to be. I'm gonna have to have a word with them. No, I wish I could, because this is an absolute P of a problem. And of course, once this stuff starts cracking, it's all over the place. You can't do anything with it. Look, there's bits there. Flaming thing. You know, if you when you have a nut that's caught in a Strat style slot, the advice is to split the nut down the middle and fold it in, and that's fine because you're basically working with a piece of bone or plastic inside two wooden, or in a slot made where the walls are both made of wood. But the problem is, if it was like this, see that? And why do they do this? Okay, so this is an absolute bugger. So there's the little bits come off. Bits you can glue back, but the truth is you can never get them back the way they need to be, and it always shows up. There's a bit there sticking up, God knows what. Right, so we got it's free at this end, but it's completely glued on at this end, and there's nothing I can do. If I try and now put a blade down here, all that will happen is it will just crack this nut, crack this finish, which is already cracked. I mean, it's kind of like, well, there's no real point trying to save it, but yeah, it's just gonna lift that whole piece off. If I twist it off, it's going to lift it off. If I don't twist it off, take it off, there you go. That's fantastic. Thanks, Harley Benton. See that? Glued fully into the wall of that. It's like an oil slick there, and there's no way of getting that off. Absolute. Well, you can imagine my feelings about this. So the question now is, how do you get any of this off in order to use it to fill in the bits? Because the truth is, this is now going to snap off as you try and take it off. I really am going to have to stop doing this, actually. Oh God, I hate to have to say that, but I'm going to have to stop doing Harley Benton nut changes. And I think, there's even finish caught up down the back here, which makes the slot isn't even straight. Or it's a bad cut. They've cut it in 2 layers. Oh well. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to. This is the third in as many weeks, or in about a month. So I'm going to have to put a proviso that I can't do it. And if I can't do it, then what's the point of setting them up? Because the problem is, this makes me go to all kinds of lengths to try and repair it, but I have no chance of getting this off. There is nothing in the world that's going to take this off. I mean, I could. No, it's rock solid. All I can do now is just bend this, right? It's not even going to come off. Well, that's it. Actually, I'm going to have to say this. I can't do these anymore. It's as simple as that. I can't afford it. This is too much hard work. Because I now have to try and make some sort of repair to this. Absolute garbage. And it's too common now. I wonder if you can speak to them and say, don't do this, please, guys. You're making it impossible. I mean, you know, I could have an approach from now on that says, okay, what I'll do is I will basically do a setup, but I will only use the nut that's built in. But this is, they call this, I think they call it graphite. This is a plastic nut. I can't even get this off. What's my hope? Let's see if I can melt or warm it slightly. No chance. I despair. Look at that. I can't even break that off. That's how tightly it's fixed to there. Right, well, that's definitely gonna change what I do from now on. I can't be doing this. Absolute swines. I did say to Paul that this is possible, what happens. It's such a pity. Like I say, there's literally, I mean, I can keep that and keep it as Exhibit A, but what's the point? I mean, I can't get this piece off to repair this. It needs, I don't have a, I mean, I can try and cut it off this way, but it's just going to fall to bits if I can't get it off in a single piece. Oh, it does my head in this. I mean, so solid, it's unbelievable. I'm trying to get this freed up from the plastic, but my God, does it want to go? Does it hell? I've never felt anything as rock solid as this before. It's incredible. I mean, I'll sort of try and take it off with a bit of this nut attached to it. That's about all I can do. See how hard I'm having to cut this to get it to work. And it's busting itself, it's splitting and cracking. That's the best you can get. And then the chance of putting this back together now is non-existent. So we've got little splinters of stuff. We've got a chunk of finish here. We can put that back in, but the chances of getting that to even look tidy is non-existent. I am so fed up with this happening. I can't tell you how demoralized I am. So I can put this in and I can probably glue it, but again, it's imperfect because it's, as you can see, it's cracked and it will not be be a pretty finish. And the problem is now, if I get this glue into here, it'll either leak out, or I put a bit on. Let's see, is this the really wet, gooey stuff? Yeah, I mean, the chances are it may run where I don't want it to go. And then it's not even sitting in the right place, really. Okay. Well, can't get any glue out of there. Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you know, that's just, this is ridiculous that every time this happens, this now ruins my evening. I mean, the whole plan I've got now has just gone out the window. My timing is now shot to shit. Oops, sorry, what do you call it? YouTube. I'm going to try and get some bit of glue up there. And try get this little piece back here. The problem with super glue, of course, is as soon as I put this in, if I don't get it right the first time in, it tends to, oh Christ almighty, tends to sit itself somewhere it wants to be, and that's your lot. You don't have any choice about it for the second time round. So there it is, sat in there. I'm going to use a bit of glue boost accelerant. Just press that down a little. Hopefully hold that in place. God, what a stinking mess. So a bit of repair, but so imperfect it's unfunny. So there's another little bit up here, which has this incredibly thin little shard, which is pretty impossible to handle as well. It doesn't want to sit down. Oh, Lord have mercy. Does this want to do? Nope, doesn't want to do anything. Now it's got glue on the top of it. And this is about to get stuck in a way I can't do anything with it. So pretty useless trying to repair things that have cracked like this. You bring it up into place, and will it sit where you want it to? Will it how? So that just sits there, sort of where it should have sat to begin with. Let's see if I can get a little bit of glue into there. That looks terrible. That's actually sitting up. You can't get it to press down because the fibres don't match up. So when I come to gently touch this, it's going to either break off. It's not sitting where it should do because it doesn't want to behave. And then there's a little bit on the end of here which belongs there. Hellfire. Okay. I think what's happening is there's residue of the accelerant is sitting on there. I can't get it all off, and so that's making the surface unusable. Fabulous. So then we could sort of get that to there like that, and it's a mess, an ugly mess. I hate you, Harley Benton. I really, absolutely hate you. It's the last time I think I'm going to be doing this. Seriously. I mean, like I said, there's a little piece here now which wants to go on here, but I can't get it in there because the can't get it in because it's going to fall into there and then it's going to get stuck. Like I say, the accelerant has already combined with some of the glue to make the surface uneven. So this, even if I can drop this in place, it's not going to want to sit there. It's like glass, this stuff. It's so brittle. There you go. And I can position it there, but it has no desire to sit in place whatsoever because, as I say, it's now a raised up surface that doesn't want to stick anything on it. Yeah, it's like trying to piece together a skull from I don't know, one of those archaeological digs. See, that's blow it away and the rest of it goes. I mean, I can't even. I was trying to clean the glue out of here a little bit, just even to get it to sit in, but it's just. What am I? An old master's picture restorer or something? Oh, great! So I just sent that flying off in the distance. I think that's probably a good time to give up. I held that down so it wouldn't do that. Now it's, oh, there it is. Yeah, very close to giving up. Yeah, so there we are. That's the end of my my little deliberation with the old Harley Benton nut fixture. I think I can't do this anymore. Too much time wasted. If I can't get this little tiny piece on here quick enough, which I can't, because it's not going to go in there. Oh my God. If I don't get it in quick enough, the glue's going to set and I won't be able to set it down at all. No, what a waste of time. The glue's set, I can't do it. It's warm, it's humid, there's not a chance of getting it in there in time. So it's crap. Well, better off just basically putting some black lacquer in there, but I detest this, I really do. It's a total waste of my time and disappointment for the customer. But I think, I've just got to accept I've seen it. It's too many times now on the trot, and clearly something's changed. That's what I'm absolutely noticing. They've done something, and it's just a disaster as far as changing the nut is concerned. I'd be interesting to look online and see if anyone else has suddenly started to experience this as a major problem. Because, God, to not be able to upgrade your guitar with a decent new nut is awful. Okay, 734, 852. That's 120 difference. So we're going to need to take this down. So what do we say? 754. I'm going to go to a fraction higher than this. So what should we call it? Should we call it 759? 759, 8. So that's a millimetre. So 855. Take it down. So I'm so disappointed. So yeah, that's just it's just messed up the whole schedule now. What was going to be tonight's job has now become a disappointment. $8.45. 749, 845, wrong side. 749, go 760. Now it's funny, isn't it, to have to say I don't think I can do it anymore, you know. And the thing that makes Harley Benton's into great guitars is the ability to upgrade the nut, basically, and do a good setup. So lose that ability to do that, and what have you got left, really? I am so miffed at this. 807, coming down towards where we want it. $806. Yes, I'm so disappointed that that's going to put a stop to it. I really can't be doing with this. I think it's enough times. I mean, I have to say it's been 2 Harley Bentons very recently and 1 vintage. So maybe you might say I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but I can't afford to offer a service that's going to cost me 3 times the amount of time and upset the customer and feel like a step back, taking an otherwise pretty looking guitar and making it look scruffy. There's no way, short of completely refinishing this headstock, there's no way I can repair that to any standard. It's just terrible. Now I'm even as I'm doing this now, I'm fitting it back in to this cracked thing, which looks terrible. I'm having to squeeze this into this kind of looks like a pack ice of broken bits of stuff. 749, 758. We're pretty much on the mark here. I'm just gonna stop there. Yeah, I mean, you can do a little bit of building up around it to to drop in some finish, but it's never going to look very tidy. It's always a kind of workaround. So to even get this in, I'm having to sort of squeeze this into the place. Now, what I can just have a quick look at. Yeah. Oh, what can you say? It's just such a disappointment. I genuinely thought it was the other way around, but so that now I can see this. This it's completely uneven, isn't it? Because they've taken a chunk of material off. The best I can do is level that out some, but this is all part of the problem with this. We've now got this uneven shelf. I hate you, Harley Bentons. Let me count the ways. So put this in here, and that is evidently got a, what is there getting in the way? I think what there is a little bit of the edge of the piece that I stuck back on, which doesn't quite fit, because it's sticking back a little bit, and of course this is more than likely going to snap it off. Heavenly, holy moly, heavenly Lucia's. This is just horrible. I hate being in this situation. Have I told you that? So we've got this great big tilting ledge thing going on here. Oh, Christ, what a rubbish piece of crap we've got going on. Yeah, I can feel this sort of back edge of this piece of paint. The trouble is now what's going to happen is it's now going to sink. It's going to sink down, and this is now going to drop into a hole, and it's going to now be too low, and that's going to waste that nut completely, because this front edge is incorrect, and I haven't got a file that will scrape the edge of that in any useful way. I wonder if one of these Hosco files will do it. Maybe. I'll just break the headstock off and make a headless guitar out of it. Okay, getting there. Still a little bit of a gap on this front edge because it is sticking up a little bit. See, this is the problem. It's this. We've now got the back edge of this crispy finish holding up the nut from being seated properly. And if we break this off, who knows where the nut's going to go next. That's great, except now it's too low at this end, I think. Maybe not. See, we won't know, but that could be. That's barely on the mark. Holy cow. See, so a little thing like this, I'm sorry this is a pisser of a setup to show now, but you see what happens is one little thing, or big little thing like that, and now we've now got all kinds of problems to cure. We've got a first fret action now that's probably fractionally too low, because I've cut the nut without realizing that in fact the this is now broken off. That's good. Let's snap a piece of that off. Yeah, so now we've got a nut that's probably too low, and I may have to boost that up to the right height to get it to work in this. Now, who knows how deep this slot now is, because it's a bit modified thanks to the having to put these bits of finish back in. There we go, we're already touching down. So the next thing I've got to do is I've got to raise this nut up now, which was kind of makes a mockery of buying a nice new nut, because I've now got it nice and square on the bottom, but it's now too low. That's thanks to the not quite precisely fitting repair pieces that I've had to put in. So just the consequences now from the first thing going wrong, it's now compounding it, and it just becomes an absolute nightmare trying to take my eyes out. And I've only got one string here to tighten up. I think, honestly, I'd hate the thought of not being able to do this, and I can't think of any technology that's going to get these nuts off without breaking this brittle, glassy poly. But if it, if that's all that happens every time, then there's just no point. Okay, that's seated in there nicely. I mean, some of this is going to get covered up by the truss rod cover, and that's all I'm going to be able to do is just cover that up. But so the next thing now is this is now too low, slightly fractionally too low, and really all I've got available now is to build it up using another piece of black tusk that I've used before. Here's a piece there, look, I can glue this to the bottom and sand this back to exactly where I want it. So that's completely buggered everything up, so I now got to spend more time modifying this nut, which won't be that long, but it's all wasted time, and it is down to this choice of the manufacturer to make this nut in this particular way. So I kept this as an offcut of a single block of tusk that I made a custom nut out of, thankfully. And now what I can do is I can just get this on there, perfect width and everything, glue this little sucker on, and let's just chop this bit off. Glue this on and move all these things, glue, cut this short, then I'll glue it on, and then I'll sand it down to where I want it to go. Okay. Now this is a little bit difficult to do because suddenly this will get all over my fingers. See that? It's impossible to even hold it properly without it getting stuck to you. Okay, just grip this now, please. I can't bear it anymore. Look at that. That's because it's gone off already. This must be so warm here. So I'm getting absolutely nowhere with using super glue in this environment, which is depressing. So I'm going to sand it back, give it one more go. smooth fit, please. So look, you can see even repairing or shimming this nut with its own material is suddenly becoming a labour of love, because it just doesn't want to do it, because it's trying to set straight away. So I have to try and get the damn thing in my hand, get it on there, plenty of material, not get it to stick, cover it as much as I can, and then press it down and call it quits. Get in line, you. Right, that's all I can do. See just how difficult even that is. Okay, I'm going to spray a bunch of this at it while I'm here, because I can't be bothered working with wet glue anywhere. That's the most expensive accelerator spray on the planet Earth. Okay, so now I'm going backwards in time to my sanding block, and next I'm going to sand this out flat first of all. Conscious that it's thicker at this end to begin with. So I have to just gently bring it back to level. Honestly, I tell you, Harley Benton's, you will be the death of me. Just getting this down to size all round. And the actual difference in height now required is so small that it won't take long at all before we're down to the right height. So I just get this carefully smoothed to quite difficult to handle when you're taking this little extra ledge off it, but we'll get there. A bit on the back edge. Nice and smooth, nice and smooth, nice and smooth. Come on, nice and flat, please. There we go, flush there. Flush there. So this is basically how I've given the nut a little boost, or a boot, whatever you might like to call it. And then it will now fit in there just as nicely, but it's now much taller than it was. And we can bring it down. Now, I said 750 was wrong now. So it's 884. I'm going to take some off, but not too much. And I think the situation now is going to have to be that if I don't get it to where I want it to be, I'm going to have to do this by cutting downwards to get the right first fret action. It's a sort of This is where we go into sort of remedial measures if things aren't playing ball. Okay, so we've got a very narrow little thin boot on the bottom of here, and it's now a matter of judgment. It could even still be wrong, who knows. Put that in there. Let's get somewhere we can start with. Like I say, ideally, if we hadn't had to mess around with that changing height of the slot, then the ideal situation is we just get it to the right height and don't cut downwards. But having done that now, having a problem with the nut slot, the shelf, we now don't have that luxury anymore, so we may have to cut it down. Okay, so a little bit of overhang there, that's fine for now. Lined up there. So that's now too high by, we can measure it. We're missing the high E, but we'll judge it off this one. That's probably about 0.7 or even 0.8. So look, we're not even getting off the starting blocks here. This is how bad this is. Okay, that's 0.8. We're going to take half a mil off this end, and then we're going to take, let's try this down here, it's a bit smaller this end, half a mil off the treble end, 0.7, 0.7, 0.8 maybe. So 0.7. We've got 0.7 and 0.8, so half and 0.4, so it's, okay, half a mil off one end, 0.4 off the other, half a mil off one end, 0.4 off the other. Pardon me. I don't even know, I've given up worrying about what you can see now. This is such a royal pain. Half a mil off the treble end, 0.4 off the bass end. So basically half a mil, so I want it to come down to 8.1 on this end and not far off the other end, but more off the treble end. So I'm just pushing a bit harder on the treble end, that's all I'm doing to begin with, just to imbalance it towards the treble. Nearly there. So this is me trying to avoid cutting down into the slots, because it's the thing we want to most avoid doing. So I'm trying, given everything else that's gone on, trying to get it to the right height by correct sanding from below. Now this is going to be Dadgad when the time is right. So I'm just loading it now to see the string heights and stuff. What have we got here? Still over 0.5. So I've got a fraction more to do. Might as well just get this right. It's going to take a while, but let's put a 2 on the end of there. Where's it gone? 0.6. Bass end. It's not 0.6, 0.5. 0.5 at the bass end, probably. So at this point, I'm saying to myself, keep keep your spirits up. Okay, 0.5, and we need to lose 0.1 at that end, and a bit more at the treble end. 0.5. So we need to lose 0.2 at the bass end and 0.4 at the treble end. 0.2 at the bass end, 0.4 at the treble end. 0.2 at the bass end, 0.4 at the treble end. 0.2 and 0.4. 0.2 at the bass end, 0.4 at the treble end. 0.4 at the treble end. 0.4 at the treble end. 0.4. What are we coming to? 8.5. That would be 7.7. Let's go to. Putting the weight on the treble side, 7.7, 7.96. Again, weighing down the treble side, let the bass side drag. Yeah, I genuinely think, it is worth, writing to Harley Benton Toman and saying, you're making it impossible for luthiers or techs to do setups or change the nut. You know, it's not a great situation to be in. You know, if this keeps happening, it's going to be the end of it for me, because I can't afford this time, or to disappoint customers with a load of cracked finish. Although I've warned people that this is in danger of repeatedly happening now, having spotted it a few times in a row. It doesn't feel good, even though you can say, well, I did warn you. Okay. Let's just check. .3. I'm happy with that. That's going to be how it is. Right. So I'm gonna work my way off with this guitar as best I can. I'm going to need to borrow a sacrificial string, and then we'll tune it to Dadgad. So I'm going to put a couple of tiny, oh no, I'm not. First of all, I'm going to take a tiny bit of material off the bass end. Now, have I got a device out here? There was one I had. Can't find it now. It was a device that was good for shaping the ends of nuts. Sorry about this. I now can no longer find it. So wherever I had it, it is now being put somewhere else. So I'm going to have to do this by hand. That's really crazy. It was here. It was kicking around here because I used it. Here it is. Thank you. Not sure if this is the best one to use, but try and take down some of the end without wobbling off the side. Still a bit more to do. So let's speed it up. Okay, nearly there. flush there, sticky out there. Okay, I mean this is fairly normal stuff. Little tweaks to a replacement nut, nothing to do with, it's not a problem with toe man or anything causing this. This is just fairly standard procedure. Okay, let's chuck that out of the way. Okay, now I'm going to put a little bit of a dab of glue. See, what I've discovered is that the glue is, oh Christ almighty, it's not the glue on the, it's not glue on the ground side that's the problem on these guitars. It's the finish riding up. Occasionally you'll get a piece of a nut that the glue will cause the a little bit of tear away off the wood, but it's usually minimal, and actually that you can really deal with, because all you have to do is just kind of put a little bit of a filler of some kind in there, even if you can't replace the bit of wood that came out. That's not the problem. The problem is this curtain, this buttress of finish that goes up the back of the nut. That really causes the problems. I'm just going to blow my nose, I'm afraid. Excuse me. Now we're way over time. It's now 5 to 9. Hello, Kev. You said live broadcasting. How are you doing?
Not too bad.
Good.
How about yourself?
Yeah, just yet another problem. I keep getting the same problem with these damn guitars.
Yeah.
The Chinese factory puts the nut in place and then paints finish up the front of the nut like a carpet, so it's easier. So they seal the nut in with the finish, and the finish is glassy. And you see what's happened. I can't get the nut out without breaking the glassy, splintery stuff. So it means you literally can't change the nut on these without damaging, because they're lazy and they run it right up the front. It's just this, and this happened about 3 times in a row now. And I'm thinking I'm going to have to say to people, I can't do these anymore, because that's now going to cost me an extra 3 hours of trying to put it right as close as I can get, and I can't get it. I can't refinish it. It would take me days to refinish that. I do warn people that it's possible that it happens, but this is now seeming to happen far too often. So it's a shame, because it's a whole way of making stuff that I'm just going to have to say it's not worth it for you or for me. Which is a shame, because once you upgrade the nut and do some work on these, they're great guitars. But not if they fall to bits every time you try and take the crappy plastic nut out. Anyway.
Is it live stream now, are you?
No, I'm recording the setup anyway, so I can cut. I can.
I heard you talking. I thought,
Yeah. No, that's all right. That's all right. I just I can cut it out. But yeah, it was nice going out for a beer the other night. Thanks for the invite. I enjoyed that.
Right. We wasn't very highfalutin conversation.
Bikes and
Bikes, and other conversations we had on email, but we just talked absolutely drivel.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice talking drivel.
Well, it's kind of nice just getting out. That sort of. Well, I know the Indian variant hadn't come round just at that point, but it was nice getting out for a 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
It's all going well down there?
Slowly, yeah. I just sprayed up the sort of linkage for my accelerator pedal. Then I go on that.
Were you spraying yesterday? Did I hear your compressor going? Or
Yeah, I do apologise.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. You do that thing. You go, what tool's that then? Oh yeah, it's a compressor.
I'm sandblasting the bits.
See, I knew the tool because I've used the sandblaster quite a bit in the past. So I knew the sound of it, and I was thinking, what is that?
So I had the Hoover going as well.
Yeah, catching the.
Sucking out all the dust.
I've got the same hooks up to the spindle thing, bobbins. What do they call it? Pillar sander.
Yeah. I got a bucket for it to the old centrifugal
Oh, yeah.
balls.
Of course.
Yeah, it worked quite well. Yeah, so I was cleaning that up, and then I was part of the whilst they're in the engine bay, I just used undersill. Just cover all that. That'll do the job. That'll do it. So yeah, just cover that. So yeah, doing bits and pieces. I've got my bulkhead back. I intend to sort of get the surface rust off and paint that.
Excellent.
So yeah, slowly but surely getting.
Well, I have to admit, I did come back from our drink looking at bikes. I fell into the spell. I was thinking, well, they're not that much now, are they? You know.
Yeah, well, I've been looking at. Remember the old Honda 754?
Yeah.
I was looking at those. My mate had one.
Was that wasn't the CB one, was it?
I think it's the old one called CB 750.
Yeah.
There'll be K1 and K2. I think might be K3 the one I like.
And that was a massive, great 4 cylinders coming out from underneath. Yeah. Or 4 pipes coming out.
Well, that's what I want, but I can't afford it. If I do, I might get a chicken off by the wife.
She'd say, well, it's either that or the Land Rover.
Yeah, I've had that conversation. So it's a case of, I'll sort of forget what I'm doing. Yeah, get the Land Rover done and then I might settle.
Yeah,
So
I'm bored now. Oh, I was looking at anything, you know. I was looking at the ZRs and the ZX10s, the old vintage looking things.
Yeah.
Thinking, well, I liked it when I had it, and you know, they're still looking pretty good nick, some of them, you know, with very little mileage. I'm thinking that's probably not very true, but
Well, I nearly went for a bike ride on Sunday. My mate phoned up. He texted and said, we're off to Jolly Roger. Yeah, can't unfortunately. Lovely weather on Sunday. My son was meant to be revising for this year's exam. He did a little bit and that was it. And like, I'm here because we just got a dog, a puppy, and I was looking after a puppy. Wife was out, so it was like, like an old blast.
but you couldn't. No. Oh, the torture.
It is. But I will do. So yeah, we didn't. I don't know what we talked about. We talked about rubbish.
Yeah, I mean bikes mainly, and how much fun it was.
Yeah. Did your sort of wife or is it partner?
Claire, my wife, yeah, Mrs. Yeah.
Did she say, no, you're not buying one?
Well, no, it was more like, well, how are we going to get the money? So, well, that's just a practical problem to overcome. So more of these. Well, not more of these because it's going backwards in profitability, but.
Well, I was looking at also I sort of prompted my wife to say, we need a couple of thousand for, remember the old Kawasaki Z650s? Another bike race in life. And she looked at it and she went, oh, it's quite nice that. I went, oh, that's a good sign.
Yeah. That's right. I get weird things at night here. Yeah, definitely birds, I hope. Right, well, I'm going to have to finish this pretending I haven't ripped the hell out of the headstock, and I'm just going to go ahead and pretend it's a beautiful, perfect finish. But yeah, it puts me in a bit of a bind for the future. Having to say to people, if it's got this kind of paint on it, there's no way, there's no means you can get it off. It's so brittle, and it's glued like super glue to the plastic nut. Even when it came off with a disc, a big chip, right, stuck to the nut, and I physically couldn't break it off. That's how hard it stuck. So I had to cut it off, and that split it as you cut it. You know, just what a fucking pain that was. Anyway.
Well, if you want to come out again, you're very welcome.
Yeah, I think the missus.
We'll try to be a bit more.
Well, the next time I'll arrange it so that she comes and gets me after an hour or two instead of driving home. But yeah, let me know if you've got another one planned, and I'll tag along.
Depending on the weather, my mate Mark, who sat next to you,
yeah,
he was saying he's got a couple of pallets that I'm happy to take off him and chop them up and put them in a fire pit. He said we could do a fire pit, Kev, soon. Well, we're going into town.
Oh, a hangout sort of boys around the fire thing.
Yeah, yeah. Boys on the fire,
Yeah.
talk rubbish again, and drink whiskey, beer and whiskey.
Because once you're a bit drunk, Mrs. doesn't have to know how drunk you are. Just a bit, love. You don't begrudge me, do you?
Yeah. Well, that might happen Friday. Actually,
Oh,
perhaps.
Ooh. I've got a booking on Friday, unfortunately. But let me know the next time it looks likely.
Yeah, we probably will do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
To the point where we can get away out and about. Then we're an age we got double jabs, haven't we?
Yeah.
So we got
Well, apparently we can still get it. They say, but I like to behave like we can't. You know, however irresponsible that might be.
Yeah. Well, they're saying that the people who are being affected are only sort of having sort of runny noses.
Yeah, absolutely minor.
Mild symptoms compared to what we were hearing. You know, my mate, Navy guy down in London, he had to go to hospital over Christmas. He had COVID.
Right.
And he had an oxygen level of 81.
With COVID.
Yeah.
That's pretty low actually in the numbers.
I think we're 91.
Right, 91 isn't bad.
91
Yeah.
is still bad, I think.
Yeah.
But he was in hospital for 5 days.
Wow. And
Just,
is that after? Did you say that's after 2 jabs?
No.
No.
He didn't
Oh.
have the jab at all.
All right. Yeah. And how old is he?
He's 1 year younger than I, 54, 55.
Right.
And he's one of these people that is a conspiracy.
Uh,
All this business.
yeah.
You know, I'm not going to have the jabs.
How do you How do you think it did it sort of resonate at all? Like, you know, now is it still a conspiracy?
I did say to him, "Are you going to have your jab then, Sean?" He went, I go, "I think you should do, because I've had it done, and I feel, I'm going to get it. If I do get it, I'll have a mild symptoms."
Yeah.
But he's the type of guy that will go, no. You know, he's expecting something to fall off. You know, or the government will then be able to control his
That's
brain.
right. Bill Gates or someone.
Yeah. Right, I'll let you concentrate, sir.
Yeah. Not this Friday, but if you're having another get together, give us a shout.
Yes, absolutely. No problem.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cheers. Okay, right. We're going to go and do a bit of spray. Let's go and do a bit of spray. Can I be bothered to stop the video? No, I can't. Yes, I can. No, I can't. I'm just going to leave it running. Spray. let's get on. Recovered maybe from my demoralisation of getting this stupid nut problem. Plug that in. So we're running late now, of course, courtesy of this problem. So, I mean, you know, it is what it is, unfortunately. I don't like it any more than anybody will. But I've got to have a proper rethink now about whether this is going to be the case for every Harley Benton that comes my way. Now, just for info, I am leveling this very gently, and I'm doing it on tuning set to normal, and now it won't be like that. We will set it to Dadgad, but this should be fine for leveling it out anyway. Okay. Well, we're going to have a nice guitar that plays and stays in tune, so in those ways it's an improvement on what it was, but sadly it's at the expense of a blasted finish on the headstock. Now this is interesting. This is showing me up some quite uneven frets here. Low frets here and low frets there, which probably isn't too bad a problem. Let's just play and test it. See, this sounded nice, this guitar, when I actually played it the other day, and it had a nice tone and everything. So it's nice that it's back working. It's just such a pity that it has to, such a difficulty getting the nut out. You know, and there's no, I have to say, there is no real way of getting around this, much as I wish there was. High spots up here. Yeah, no way around it. I mean, you can, you know, the sort of people giving advice to cut the nut in half and so on and so forth. It doesn't apply to a shelf or an end-mounted nut like this. It makes sense with a Strat one, and even that's pretty nerve-wracking because you have to cut downwards with a basically with a saw of some kind, and if it's not a hacksaw, then it's a similar kind of saw, and cutting down into a nut slot where you can't actually tell precisely if you've reached the bottom of the slot yet is, yeah, nerve-wracking, and it looks pretty daunting too. So there's just no way around it. So there's a couple of spots, high fret spots around here that are showing up pretty decisively. So I'm going to do the best I can to make this play as well as it can. Great. Yeah, I'm going to do my best to make it play the best it can, because I know that Paul was talking about having strength issues in his wrists, so you know, I wanted to make this the lowest possible action that we can get, and so hence getting the frets right as well. And I think it'll be just great once we've done this, but I might do a couple of tiny touch-ups with black paint just to kind of make the wood disappear, the little see-through bits of wood disappear, but that will be it really. I'll do that with probably with it could be black nitro, or we could use some black glue boost stuff, The problem is I just want something to fill in without kind of running anywhere or making a mess anywhere else. So anyway, so now I'm aiming to have this very, very low action with no fret slap, which is what this little bit of leveling is about. More than anything else, it's not really too concerned about high or low frets. It's more concerned about ironing out any wobbliness of the fingerboard. Yeah, I keep thinking, low frets right there. I keep thinking about this finish business as it kind of carpets the back side of the fret, and just thinking there's no real way around that. Once it's stuck, there's nothing I can think of to release it from there. I mean, I don't even think it's not even a a lacquer, which technically you could theoretically loosen it. You could soften it by adding by putting more material or thinners on top, which would soften the stuff to a degree, or what do they call it? Reflow it, but I mean it would make a mess of it anyway. So there's not really anything you can do, and because the poly is fully cured, chemically cured and brittle, the result is that it just splinters as soon as it's under any kind of stress at all. As you fully well know, that's why dings on the guitar are so easily done, because it's glassy, waiting to break. So there's a really high end there. So it's interesting, and a very high end there. Wow, that's fascinating to see just how off that was. So we've got low frets up here. I'll do a little bit more up here. This is currently set very low indeed, so I am asking rather a lot of the frets at this end, or on this part of the E track on the guitar radius. But let's see if we can sort of level it out a little bit at this end, so we get rid of that slap. Okay. Better. Okay, I'm going to barrel right along here. Strings off. Going to sorry about the crap boring camera angles. Didn't intend to run late and end up in this situation. I've just been spraying in the other room. Sprayed some sanding sealer on an old Trekkie that I'm repurposing. I didn't like. I was trying to get it finished for a customer, and my chisel or my gouge went through the wall, the thin front, I should say, and that wasn't all. There were a few other little things I didn't like about how it had gone, so I sort of took it as a moment to just stop, because it wasn't going the way I wanted. So I decided that what I'd do is I'd fill the existing holes, because I didn't like where I'd positioned the electronic components. I thought I'll get rid of that all, I'll fill it. Thanks, Wilkinson. Really make things easy. Yeah, so anyway, I filled the existing holes, control holes, pot holes, or whatever you might call them, and then Right, this just isn't going to work. This is almost... crikey. Not everything about this wants to play ball. I'm not best pleased. I noticed adjusting this bridge was hell in the first place. It was very, very stiff. I didn't want to do it. You know, it's a cheap Wilkinson. I'm not very thrilled with the construction of that bridge. Okay, so I'm going to clean this bridge while I'm at it because it's a bit grubby. Might as well tidy everything up that we can as we can. So it's a bit shinier. There's some dust in there. Of course, the trouble is at that point you end up moving the height of the bridge. Gets readjusted, but it's okay. Even though it's a bit stiff, we should be able to comfortably set the playing action again. Just get rid of some watermarks here on the guitar that made it look a bit grubby. Okay, so next step, I'm going to make a cup of tea in a second, but next step we're going to re-crown these. Quite a bit of work done on some of the edges here. Some very uneven frets going on, but overall not that much. But it is set to a very low action, so it's going to push the limits of leveling. But it's meant to be a fast-playing guitar, and it needs to tolerate a low light action for Paul's wrists and Paul's fingers to play. So I don't apologise for setting the bar very high. So let's use the medium side of things here. Again, sorry if the view isn't great at the moment. I'm just sort of trying to plough onwards. So I'll probably find that, if anything, there's a bit of work on the base end of certain frets more than anywhere else. I would say they're fairly worn, these frets. So we will ultimately end up tuning this to Dadgad with the nines that Paul supplied here. Yeah, nines. I think Dadgad, being a down tuning, ends up being quite floppy feeling strings, but not so bad if you have strength issues in your fingers. Probably a lot nicer to play. I had a little go at Dadgad the other day, and just to see what sort of how it made me think really as a player. You know, you start thinking about different voicings of chords that you've never thought of before, because they're just, yeah, you come up with new things, which is quite interesting, and I can see why players and songwriters like to switch to a new tuning like that. It really can stimulate creativity, I think. Well, despite this problem, I have got a lot of stuff done here tonight. It's just a pity that it ran so it takes quite a bit over time. Okay, so that's that done. Now I'm going to give it a good clean up with naphtha, and this will get rid of a lot of the dust and the pen at the same time, and it also means it'll clean the oils off the fingerboard too, so that I can use masking tape and it will hold to the fingerboard while I'm using it to protect the fingerboard. You can see all that pen coming off there. Anyway, so I've got quite a lot of work coming in and stacked up, which I'm not at all complaining about, very happy for. See, look at that, not enough glue on there. See, being over cautious now. I think I need a bit of sticky glue. Right, I'm going to leave this off for the time being, and I'm going to put it back on with some slightly stickier glue, thicker glue, when I've got the strings back ready to go on, because I want them to be the thing that holds it down. So right now I'm just going to again clean the glue off the base of the nut, because it makes it stand a little proud. I'll be ready to put it back on. See, you can't win really, you don't put enough on. Actually, I can't put it on now because it's in the right position. It's exactly fitting now. Yeah, you can't win. You know, you get some glue, it's too weak and it doesn't grip, and you put too much on and then it tears everything off with it. So I'm going to try again, but this is thicker glue now, so this might stand a chance of gripping somewhat better. Easy for me to position now because it's dead smack bang in line with the sides, flush, so that should be fine. Okay, that's that. Right, so the next thing now is I'm going to do off camera, and it's the long drawn out fret polish out, using masking tape to mask off and protect the fingerboard. I will sand all of the frets out right the way through to a shine, nice glassy shine, and we will be ready to restring. And I'll just, for tonight, I'll just restring in standard tuning, and then I will take it home and set it to Dadgad at home and make any final tweaks to the action height if necessary. Yeah, much more challenges thanks to Thomann and Harley Benton's factory process, and I will be critical of it again, because if you have a process that prevents an owner from changing the nut without destroying the guitar, I think you're into a bad situation. I don't think there's any argument about that, and it's unfortunately seems to be the case, and it seems to be increasing number of times that's happened to me. So I think if it's the sort of way they're doing it, and it appears to be, then I think I'm just, if it's something's changed recently that they're doing it this way, I suspect it has, because I would have come across this problem much earlier, and I would have suffered from it much earlier, because one thing's for sure, one thing doesn't change, and that is how often I will change the nut, which is every single time on a Harley Benton. So, you know, if it's suddenly started doing this, then it's not because I've suddenly started changing the nut on Harley Bentons. I always do it. So what's changed? It has to be something that they're doing in manufacturing, and I think it's a compromise decision, and I think they've changed the order of something, and it means those nuts are basically gummed into place with the very, very brittle, very sticky stuff, which is a total disaster from my perspective, and the customers actually. So I think I will finally put together a message saying, please, you know, even if you don't want to make my job easier, for God's sakes, think about your customer and what they are more than likely to want to do with their guitars, which is change the nut and make them stay in tune better, for example. You know, a lot of people will say, oh, you don't need to change the nut on the Harley Benton CST, because they'll say, Toman says it's a graphite nut. Well, to you and me, that is a piece of plastic, and not that it doesn't work as a nut, it does, but it's very difficult to cut, and because it's plastic and it bounces back, and you will very easily overcut it whilst trying to cut it to give you the first fret action that your guitar deserves. So you can't win. It's the wrong material for cutting. It isn't. It's likely to make you overcut, and as a result, you'll still be needing to put another nut on. In which case, you'll still be stuck trying to prise off a nut that's been glued in with all of that sticky, brittle stuff that we've had to put up with today. So I think Harley Benton, I think this could become a pain in the neck issue, and it certainly has for me, to the point where, okay, it's only two that it's happened with just recently, but it's two in very quick succession, and nothing's changed about what I do. You know, and people, you know, people can get judgmental and go, oh, look at the way you tap off the nut. You know, there is no other way of getting a shelf positioned nut off, frankly. So you have to break the glue seal, and if it won't come out after that because it's carpeted into place thanks to all that brittle finish, then you've got there's nothing you can do. You're stuck. So I just think it's a bad move on the Benton's part. So you never know. See who might appreciate feedback on their construction of their guitars. I'm sure they get plenty of it from happy customers as well as some disgruntled ones. I mean, there are a couple of things as a setter upper of guitars that you'd think that the manufacturer would kind of look out for those people who are regularly working on these guitars, and you know, probably more so than the average Harley Benton person works on them. You know, it's one thing to set them up in the factory and get them out the door. There's another one to, you know, work on them and have a sort of build up of impressions of, you know, what the repeated problems are. So it would be, you'd think they'd want a view, but maybe they do. Maybe they watch the people's videos, but I'm sure they don't have several hours to watch my videos each time. I don't blame them either. You know, I'm not knocking them. But anyhow, we shall see. So okay, I'm going to put the radio back on, go offline, and I will. Or will I? Do you know what? I think I'll just carry on, because I have to stop and restart. I may have run out of battery for all I know, so that may be a deciding factor. This may have taken so much time that I ain't got no choice no more. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's still running according to this. Whatever it's pointing at. Yeah, I'll leave it running, because I think starting and stopping it's going to be more trouble than it's worth. Anyway, it's just a noisy business, all this polishing. Noisy, sweaty business, but at least it's late now, so it's cooled off. We shouldn't get too discombobulated, although I do want to make a cup of tea, that is the truth. But I might do that anyway and edit it out or something, if you don't want to join me. Anyhow. going to do in a minute is I'm going to hang up the guitar. The body I was just spraying with the sanding sealer. Get that out of the way. Leave that till tomorrow to set whatever the sanding sealer does before I consider whether I sand it a little bit. Probably got a little bit more left in the can to spray. So now I've forgotten we're down into 24 fret land at the moment, so I'm looking for the thinnest possible pieces of masking tape. I forgot it's a 24 fretter. Well, I know it is, but I forgot that as far as cutting bits of masking tape was concerned. It always gets harder. Anyway, so I'm trying to focus on the positives here, that I've rescued this guitar from not being playable at all to being very playable, and now it's going to be even more so with this ultra low action that I'm getting for it. So I'm trying to look on the bright side of life. Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum-da-dum. I'm trying to be positive. Ugh. Right, so that's me masking tape done. Gonna get me bits of sanding paper. Now I've been thinking to and fro. I used to recently. I added in a stage in my sanding. I added an extra 400 grit stage into the sanding, and I rethought about it last night, and I thought to myself, do you know, I'm going to take that back out, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to take the height of the frets down. A 400 grit to be going over a neck or frets with 400 grit paper, an extra 2 pieces of 400 grit in this part of the process is a fair amount of extra material coming off, considering that we only use 400 when we're doing the fret leveling. So I sort of decided to step back a bit from it last night and go back to just 2 pieces of 400 grit. So that was my rationale. Let's get this out of the way. Clank, clang. Right, everything okay there. So first one, I always do it by hand, because I just like to do it. What I'll do is I'll cover these up a bit, but I'll do it with green tape, which is a bit stronger. Okay, so a sanding out process, starting with this 400 grit handheld. What I'll also do is a little bit down there. So, as I say, I will do this sanding out business, and then at the end I will kind of reconsider the finish issue up by the nut, and I'll do some very small touch-ups with lacquer. Like I say, probably with nitro, because it's thicker to start with. Just happens to be in the case of my paints. It's a bit thicker, and it will sort of blob into place a bit easier, won't run too much. So it's a kind of consistency issue. Because it's thicker, it's also darker, less transparent to begin with. Okay, so that's nearly the end of the 400 grits, and then we'll move on to the 600. Now I tend to, this probably needs a bit of recutting. Let's see if I got a sharp thing. Let's see, let's try and make a sharp edged thing. Very difficult to cut something, foam in a straight line. Well, that's okay, that does it. We've got a sharper point now on my foam what's it. We probably, hopefully, ooh, it's got shorter. Hopefully we'll get it into the frets a bit tighter. I think I will forget my cup of tea and drink Coke instead. That way I don't have to stop in a minute. By the time I've done this, I'll drink anything. Now onto the 1000. Second of the 1000. $1,500s. So tiring, time-consuming, repetitive, but ultimately does the job. And then we move to the micro mesh after this. I don't know, shall I leave this guitar up here tonight and come back? I think I will do, and I'll come back and make those tiny black finish repairs tomorrow. I think I'll do that. Yeah, at least I'll be pretty much finished. So that probably means I would be better off I don't know, what do you think? Should I build it up with the black fill and finish? Oh dear, it's hard to tell. If I do it with fill and finish, that will probably go underneath the nut, but then so will nitro. But nitro will be more flexible than the fill and finish. So you can see we're getting down to 3,600 grit polishing stage. Overdeveloped right arm from doing this. And yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I'll put this on hold once I've done this and taken the paper off and cleaned up. I'll leave this repair bit on hold till tomorrow, and then I'll decide whether to do it with the nitrocellulose touch-up pot or whether to do it with the fill and finish. There we are. Last one in the sequence. Okie dokie, that's that done. That's that. Get rid of all the paperwork. And then take off all the paper. And then peel all of the protective strips off one by one. This is where you can get into trouble with some old Fender clear finishes on the neck, particularly around 2000s. I think it's 2000s models. If you don't spot them, you can go ahead doing your fret work like this, masking everything off, and then to your horror, perfectly good looking lacquer finish, gloss lacquer finish, suddenly all comes off on the paper as you remove it, and there was no sign that it would. And it seems that there's a period of time when Fender's finishes, gloss finishes on the clear finishes on the maple, didn't adhere properly for some reason or other. I don't know why. The technology is beyond me, but just I kind of get the sort of second, or the hackles on my neck go up when I come across that type of neck, and I start getting cautious, a bit like I'm now going to be with Harley Benton guitars, or any guitar where they've sprayed the nut into position, because in both cases it means hours and days of extra work, usually. Certainly if you're doing somebody's old beloved Fender and you put on some masking tape to get a good clean up, a good polish out, and then all the finish of their neck comes off unexpectedly, it's not a great look, and you end up having to refinish the whole thing, the whole neck, which, to get it right for somebody's top of the range Fender, is a big deal to get it good enough. So it's an absolute pain, complete literal pain in the thorough, utter, total pain. So you don't want it to happen. So as soon as I see one of those clear boarded or clear finished maple boarded fenders of a certain era, I get itchy, and I sometimes will say to a customer, look, all I can do with this is I dare not mask this off. So if I do fretwork on this, the only thing I can do and feel confident about is to use a fret protector strip to polish it out and avoid anything to do with masking tape and sandpaper and that level of polishing. Now, it doesn't give you as good a finish, obviously, but it's don't really have a choice. Okay, so let's see if I can fit this back in. Oh, that really doesn't want to go. Not a very good fit, but it's in. Okay, so I'm going to leave this till tomorrow, till I pack my case. I need to disconnect the phone because I think that's about it for now. What I will do just now is, while we're doing nothing else, I'll put some oil on the fretboard in advance of stringing it up tomorrow and putting some or sorting out that thing at the end there. We'll let this soak in till tomorrow. Good. Well, I've continued and to feel good about it, even though I don't. It's as good as I'm going to feel about it in these circumstances. Right. Okie dokie. Let's leave that for now. I'll see you tomorrow. So here we are. Time to restring this HB and take it home, ready for Paul to collect. Yeah, done some thinking through this problem with these Harley Bentons and their nuts. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take control of the damage that's going to be done removing these nuts. Now, what I mean by that is, if you try and do it and hope for the best, it's destructive. And I think I just have to, if I'm right, and these things are starting to come out from the factory this way more and more, then we're going to get it more and more. And I think the only thing I can do is take control of what the hell I can do with this. So I think the nearest thing that's possible, the best option I've got, is to find a way of cutting off the nut and just go at it that way from the very outset. You know, if I can't tap it. You can sort of tap it. You might get one go at it, and it tells you it's not playing ball. That may be the only chance you get. Again, I'm going to have to experiment with that. But if it doesn't chip at the first, come off at the first go, then I think we have to assume that it's going to be an impossibility, and I think I have to go at it surgically from that point onwards. And treat it like it's going to be a surgical problem. Yeah, we're just going to have to then cut it off. So to that end, I have bought some what do they call them, diamond coated, cutter, Dremel type cutter discs, and I'm going to have a go. Oh, we're starting to rain, are we? I think we are. I'm going to have a go at some, trying some of those out. We just have to take the bull by the horns, really. I suppose if you think of it that way. I mean, normally you wouldn't want to go at a nut with cutting tools. You'd want to tap it. You'd want the glue to break, and you want everything to just come off like it does in all the good guitars in all the world. Sorry, I don't even know what you're looking at here. I'm so lax. Oh yeah, you got a fair view. Fair view. Yeah, so, that's what you'd like to happen in the ideal world, but it's evident that isn't going to be the case, or I suspect that's not going to be the case with good old-fashioned Harley Benton. So from now on, I'm going to be treating each one like it's a potential enemy and doing some surgery on it. So with that in mind, I got the cutting discs, and I also got a, I suppose they call it a razor saw, and it's a sort of craft type thing. I'm going to give that a go. I'm going to do my best. Now the razor saw, I figure I could use it if I had to cut through the poly. That's the real critical thing. I need to cut that poly. So I think a razor saw might help there. Failing that, if it doesn't even want to cut that, then I've got I will have the cutting discs, and I could probably, well, we could cut the nut, most of the nut off, and then cut down. I guess the idea behind it is, if it's going to break, if that's its thing, let's put it another way. If it's stuck fast to the finish, then you have to separate it. That's all there is to it, or else you're going to be condemned to a crummy nut that won't stay in tune forever. So if that's not an option, then we're going to have to cut the nut off with extreme prejudice. And then the real question is, how do you cut through that finish without it breaking disastrously? Look at this, what an idiot. How the hell did that happen? Yeah, so we have to, it's how do we get it off without, or how do we cut it off? So obviously I'm going to have to do some experiments along the way, and I think that will be interesting to see what it will and won't cut. And can I please get this thing through? Come on. Yeah, well, we'll just have to see. It's all going to be new territory. But what's true is that we can't be at the mercy of that factory process anymore, because it's too unfair on customers, and it's crappy for me as well. So, because as I said before, even if a customer is aware that that might happen and it kind of half expects it, it's a horrible feeling to give back something that's less, in some ways, is less good than it came in. And that's, it's a bit like a doctor sending somebody out sicker than they came in to see him, or her. So you understand what I'm saying. Anyway, that's what we'll have a go at doing. Anyway, this is the kind of closing stages. This guitar, once I've stretched it all out and checked the intonation on in regular mode, I suppose I'm going to then redo the tuning to Dadgad, or I might actually test play it in regular tuning, and then Paul can make the adjustment to Dadgad. But it should be all super duper. Honestly, come along now, please. Would you? Thank you. Now, I said I like these bridges a lot. I really do. Mostly. But that was a bit of a pain. So it's funny, as soon as I start working on guitars, it's suddenly got humid in here, which is a bit dozy, because I just did a spray of some primer on my Trekkie 6 body, but I think I'm then going to put that on hold now because of the humidity. So we'll see, but it might be a smart move just to leave it until later in the week. I know we've got Tuesday and Wednesday, I've got a couple of, according to the weather forecast, I've got a couple of good low humidity days, but we shall see. Anyway, so look, it's done it again. It's what it's doing is it's locking into either the gap or the little rut between the saddles, or it's locking into the wrong saddle, and it's very difficult to make sure it goes on the right one to begin with. Yeah, so it's funny. It was a funny day. I didn't really feel up to it today and yesterday. Not feeling great. No idea why. Just been under the weather. So I had to kind of come off, Sam. There's a limited range of list of things you have to do today. So I've got my to-do list on the wall. And I've done some of them already, and I don't see any reason why I shouldn't complete them all. And then I'll be able to feel good about everything, because I have got so many jobs on at the moment, and I absolutely am not complaining in any way, shape or form. Just observing that I've got a rush of work piled up, and I've just got to be disciplined and work my way through. I'm not very good at working on staying on the case for more than about 3 hours at a time. Just my natural kind of pace of things, really. Look at this. It's suddenly gone all absolutely humid. So, right, so after all of this trouble with the headstock, remember what I've always said, and that is that the secret to stable tuning is partly half, you could call it half, getting your nut right, so getting the right type of nut and making sure the slots don't grip in any way. And the other part is stretching your strings out once you've fitted them thoroughly. So I'm just, first of all, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bed them in. I'm going to do it to standard tuning, only because I can hear the difference in tuning more easily. Helps me to tune it up quickly. So now I'm going to be as careful as I can with this set of strings, because I don't have this grade of strings in the house. So if these go pop, I don't have them to replace, so that'll be a disappointment. Look at that. How do I manage that? Well, right. It's absolutely steamy. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just going to bend these out with my thumb and four fingers, and this is what I would recommend everyone do when they replace or fit new strings. I've checked the intonation already, so I know that's good. I'm not going to do that again, but I did that at home, if you remember, or if you remember me telling you about it. So what I'm doing is I'm just going down, stretching out the strings as carefully but as thoroughly as I can, and I will then retune to pitch and stretch them out again. Using my tuning fork to begin with. Where's my microphone? Get more stretching in. Right, I'm going to leave the stretching for there on this one because, like I say, I can't afford to break a string on this set. So that's done to a standard tuning, playing fine, everything looking good, intonated correctly. There is one thing. Can you hear that? And I don't know what's causing that. What I'm concerned about, I'm going to put the big lights on because what I'm slightly concerned about is in case the nut slot isn't slopey enough on this nut. And this is a tusk nut, so there should be no problem at all with this. However, if the angle here isn't as great as the angle on a Les Paul, for which I presume this nut, this is more of a Les Paul nut, so it may be that the angle isn't quite what it should be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, this is where I'll use these ones, I'm going to cut backwards just to thingy this out. So let's have a look, 13 down there. So I want to basically, I'm cutting back just to change the angle, and what I don't want to do is, okay, I'll do it now on this one. Yeah, I can see it's touching the back of the slot, so it's not the ideal angle. I don't know if that's a mistake that is either in the, using this nut for that, but you would think that even in, I'm blaming myself here, but even in a Les Paul, you'd need that nut to be physically sloping backwards. So I don't know if they've made a mistake here. See, that's cured it already. So I'll just do a little bit more just to make absolutely sure that that's pointing back. And then we'll be good. I'll just take care of this one as well, just to be absolutely sure. Just check these as well. Yeah, you can see they're just sitting more weight on the back, which is very interesting. So let's take care of it. This one, this one, this one. So we go 26. Now that's lying dead for flat, that one. Interestingly. And that one's flat through too as well. So it's better to just give it that little bit of an angle. Now what I'm not doing is not lowering the front of the slot at all, so it's just the back so it falls away. Okay. So I don't know, that worries me as far as the nut is concerned. Even if it was for a Les Paul, you'd need the slots to be going backward. So that's not very encouraging. For a tusk. Now, settings finally. Yes. Alright, that's low and that's slightly higher. Let's get the big screwdriver for this. So that's what happens when this moves during cleaning and taking the bridge off and on. So that's fractionally low and that's too high. Let's get in there. It's just going to come out. Okay, that's good. And that's fraction too high still. See, the trouble is this thing, it wants to drag the thing. It's not fitted properly, it's too tight. So it's trying to drag the drag the bridge backwards when we tighten it up. Right, let's get this again. That's it. Much better. Okay, there we go. Paul's Harley Benton, coming to you from a steamy workshop here in West Devon. That will be it for this one. Next step, we're going to get back onto the Hondo 2 and we'll get cracking with that one. See you shortly.